Okay, it's recording.
Okay, so I had Junior for my case study. So Junior is an 8-year-old in second grade, and for at least part of the school day, he works with his special education teacher in the special education classroom. Specifically for this observation, he completed attendance and calendar during one-on-one instruction time with his special education teacher in the classroom. Junior mainly uses sign language to communicate with his teacher, but he also uses some picture communication and is working on improving his weakness with verbal communication. He's also working on his weakness of looking and listening skills, as well as his calm body skills, so he can focus better during the school day. Junior has many strengths, including following directions with verbal and gesture prompts, as well as some partial physical prompts at times. He's also great at expressing and communicating his feelings with his teacher and is eager to answer her questions. His teacher provides prompts for him using mostly verbal and gesture cues, but sometimes modeling partial physical and physical prompts are necessary. To participate in his attendance and calendar time, Junior needs his teacher to constantly remind him to pay attention and focus. His teacher also uses lots of I do, you do strategies with him to help him learn verbal communication. Okay, so for his social stories, I chose to do one on introducing himself to others because he's been working on introducing himself in the video that they showed. So this would help him introducing himself to more than just his teacher and his friends. And I also chose to do placing a lunch order because it is something that he would need to do every day. And it also helps him practice his social skills. For his SIPs, I chose to do a task analysis for calendar time because that is something Junior is working on with his teacher. And using a calendar is something he will need in his life. So learning how to do it when he is young is a good start. I also chose to do one on correctly identifying numerals up to 30 using rote counting because that is also what he was working on during calendar time. And so then he could count each date up to 30 and then practice the task. And then lastly, for the lesson plans, the first one I chose was for leisure game skills. And I chose this lesson because it allows Junior to practice his looking and listening while following directions and is a fun way for him to practice his leisure skills other than computer time. This also allows Junior to practice his social skills if he is playing the games with another student or another teacher. And an adaptation that I wanted to make to this lesson is incorporating some academic concepts into it, like numeral identification by numbering the pieces and having him identify the number piece he is using. And then the other lesson plan was everyday conversational skills. And I chose this lesson because they're tasks that he was working on with his teacher, and the lesson would meet the needs of Junior as he can practice his communication skills with those around him, including appropriate topics to talk about, nonverbal communication to look for, and other important aspects of quality conversation. And to adapt this, I would first focus on introducing him to others and then on topics that he can talk about with friends like toys, foods, and colors.
What about strengths and barriers? Anything good?
I included that with the whole description of him,
Sounds good.
but I can repeat it too if you need me to. Okay.
Probably work. All right. So I did Trey. I don't know his age. I know he's older than 12. Nothing else was mentioned in the video that I saw, but he's probably in high school. So I did him for my case study, and he's nonverbal and then has a rare undiagnosed syndrome where he's missing 3 chromosomes. And then his family speaks English, but obviously he's nonverbal, so he really struggles with communication. And then he doesn't use any AAC device either of what I saw. And so his way of communication is actually through gestures. And so if he wants to get someone's attention, he'll actually grab their arm and have them point to it. And he won't stop until they acknowledge it. And so then for my social stories, I talked about personal space and staying with family because Trey often gets too close to people and will physically touch people to get their attention. Since he doesn't have an effective way of communicating with them and getting their attention. And then his mom also showed concern about losing Trey or people taking advantage of him. And so that's why I did the staying with family, when they're at a store or something like that. And then the SIPs I did for Trey was having him use an adaptive communication switch where he would express his wants. So I specifically did like food choice at lunch. We would have 3 choices and pictures, and then he would push the button because he's really strong receptive skills and understands a lot. He just can't express his understanding as well. And so this would help with communication as a whole, and then just as a more appropriate way to communicate. Um, then the academic instructional plan SIP I did was having Trey do the dollar up method for purchases. And so this is like a math skill, but also like relates to money skills and like application in everyday life. And so I did that to focus on being able to be more independent. And then the 2 lesson plans I chose for Trey was a communication skills lesson, and the next dollar strategy was actually a lesson too. So the communication lesson was where 2 partners had 2 different maps, and then they couldn't see each other's map, and they basically had to find out what landmark features were missing on their own map according to their partner's map, and then kind of having to ask questions and figure things out through communication. And so, kind of helping Trey with that communication aspects of like how he expresses things to expresses what he wants to others, and what he wants to say to others, and how to have other peers understand him better. And then for strengths, Trey's strengths are he's really friendly. Has a great personality, fun personality, and he also has strong receptive understanding, like I said earlier. And then obviously his main barriers are communication and independency, and they kind of go like hand in hand. And since Trey is nonverbal, it kind of prevents him from communicating through verbal means like his peers and teachers do on a daily basis. And so that kind of prevents from others seeing his full potential and understanding of content. And so kind of that could be overcome by Trey using a speech output device because I think he's smart enough for one. I just don't think the school has implemented that or it's been even trialed with him. And so I think that might help him be effective in his communication, then also become more independent and be able to use it like on a daily basis. So
My case study student was named Ruby. She is 13 years old and she's in middle school. She is in a few like gen ed classes, but she's mostly in the special ed room. And in her gen ed classes, like she's always paired with some like a general ed student. Some of her strengths is that she is very good at communicating like her feelings and her needs, and she just loves talking with people, and she's very outgoing. But some of her needs, also Ruby has Strom syndrome, which is like a rare genetic disorder where she can't really see very well. She can mainly just see light, so she can see a little bit, but like they don't really know how well she can see. And her bones are also like very weak, so she has like sort of like physical problems too. She can walk, but sometimes she does like need support, like climbing stairs and things like that. Um, so for her needs, she she can't read obviously because she can't see, but the school isn't doing anything about it. From the video, it seems like they're just always reading to her, and I feel like she should start to learn Braille. So that's why a lot of my lessons, a lot of my case study is kind of focused on that. So for my social stories, I did conversational etiquette for the first one because a lot of the times, like I said, she's really good at communicating, but a lot of the times in the video, her friends would be talking to her and she would just like straight up ignore them. You know, she would just be like doing her own thing and they're talking to her. So my social story was kind of like, okay, somebody's talking to you. I know like she can't see, but maybe just like turn your body to face them so they know that you're listening. Because that could like hurt your friend if they think you're ignoring. And then I also did hearing a loud noise because she was in music class and the teacher was playing a song on the speaker and it like malfunctioned and it was really loud and she almost had sort of like a panic attack and she didn't know what to do. So it was kind of just like if you hear loud noise, cover your ears, you know, you can walk in the hallway and stand outside the room or take a walk, stuff like that. For my SIPs, the first one I did was brushing her teeth because in the video her mom brushed her teeth for her, but she was still able to hold a toothbrush and put toothpaste on it. So I feel like that's something she could do on her own. And then for the academic SIP. I did money management, and like similar to Rachel, I kind of taught like if it's $8, you use a $10 bill, stuff like that. And I found this website where like you have $1 bills, $5 bills, $10 bills, and $20 bills. And for somebody who is struggles to see, each bill is folded a different way in your wallet. So you would teach her, okay, your $1 bill is straight across, and then for a $5 bill, it's just folded in half. So if you're looking for a $5 bill, you feel it, it's the one folded in half and stuff like that. For my lesson plan starters, the first one I did was being aware in a public place. And I did this one because she's very social and she has a lot of friends. So I feel like as she gets older, she's going to want to go places with them, but she should still make sure that she's safe when she's in public. This lesson was kind of like, it was asking a lot of like, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you like smell? Like stuff like that when you're in a public place to make sure you're safe. But one adaptation that I said I would make is focusing more on all of the other senses rather than what do you see, because she struggles to see a lot of things. And my other lesson plan was dressing yourself. And I said that like if she would want to, because I think that she could do sort of like a Bethesda College program because she is very good at communicating with people, but she would need to dress herself every morning, and I think her mom does that for her. So that would be one thing that she would need to know to be more independent. And one adaptation that I would make is that you would have to teach her that like when you feel the tag on the back of your pants or your shirt, that means that's the back, because she can't see what's the front and what's the back. So you'd have to kind of teach her that when you find the tag, that's the back. So yeah, that was mine.
Sweet. All right, so first thing we need to do is find similarities and differences between our case study students. I feel like the main one that's really noticeable is communication. So I think Katarina and I's case study students, like they're nonverbal or have like gesture to communicate, whereas Caitlin's more like the visual side of things. So
Yeah, and along with that, I also seemed like the social skills, even for all of them, like with Rachel's, it was being in a people space and making sure that you're giving people personal space. And with Junior, just trying to figure out how to have a conversation with someone too. And then Caitlin's as well with different social settings.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that with a lot of students with severe moderate disabilities, socialization and like conversing with other people is a huge thing that they need to focus on. And another thing that I noticed was also since me and Rachel chose older students, that we talked more about like independence, transition skills, daily living skills, money management, things like that, to make them more independent for when they graduate high school. I think that's pretty important.
Yeah, Junior definitely has to do more with his teacher still as he's learning steps and stuff.
sounds good. All right, and then the next question is, what did you learn about the needs of individuals with moderate or severe disabilities and the challenges that they face? I'll start. I think like the needs are all there. I mean, like we said, communication was a need, but it looked different. Like it was personal space versus Caitlin's case study student could easily communicate, but how that is appropriate and like turning your back, like simple things that I think a lot of students with disabilities in general, but especially moderate and severe disabilities, they don't like understand, or like you have to explicitly teach them that, whereas it comes more natural to other students. So
Yeah, I totally agree. Just like things like, I had to make a task analysis just for brushing your teeth every day and a lesson plan just for getting dressed every day. Like that is a huge challenge that people with less severe disabilities could probably easily do on their own. But people with severe and moderate disabilities, they need help and need to be taught just like everyday things like that. So that is a huge struggle that they face. But that's one thing that we could do as special education teachers is try our best to make sure that it becomes easier every day for them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and also like just how broken down each step has to be. Like I've sit there and kind of like when I was doing the SIPs and stuff and task analysis, I was like, okay, like think about each step, and I had to kind of reenact them myself to make sure that I included each step so that they could learn it all as well.
I think what's interesting about that too is like their needs are so like specific or like basic tasks that we often like they often just happen to learn while at home or something and we just kind of overpass them and then we when we go back as teachers and we're like okay like they don't know how to do this and that is why they can't do this activity and then having that and I think that's like a huge challenge because like they don't often especially like younger students like junior he's not going to self advocate for himself. I don't think nonverbal students really know how to self advocate because people don't like the way that they communicate because it's not appropriate. And so I think that's a huge challenge is they can't advocate and then like learning those skills or showing their understanding is a big challenge. And being challenged too, they might not even they might be able to do something, but they can't show that necessarily as much as maybe other situations. So all right, so the third question is what did you learn about the potential of individuals with moderate or severe disabilities and what they are able to do?
At least for my student, I don't know, like I feel like she can do way more that her than like her teachers are like having her do in the video. Like I think she's really smart and I feel like she has so much potential to read braille. Like I don't know why they're not teaching her that. You know, like she could be so independent and it's kind of frustrating for me watching that video and they're reading her all of these books and I'm like, why isn't she doing that on her own? You know, she totally could do that on her own. Like she's so smart and I don't know. I just feel like they have so much potential and that we just have to be able to teach them.
Yeah, and with that also just encouraging the families to like don't like downplay what they can do or anything or even any of the other teachers, like trying to encourage them to set like goals that might seem like not challenging, but yeah, just anything that they can actually do too. I don't know.
Yeah, similar to Caitlin's case study, like, okay, he's nonverbal, but it's obvious that he has receptive understanding because if they ask him a question, like give him two hands, he can like point to the hand and like he'll nod and shake his head. And so I'm sure it won't take him like long to learn how to use a simple speech output device, or it can be more complicated because I think he has a great understanding. He might not know how to like phrase words into sentences type things, but he definitely knows vocabulary. And I feel like it'd be so much easier. And that's why I did the like adaptive switch for food choice. Like I don't think you have to go through a struggle of trying to find out what he wants, whereas he can just simply push a button. And I think the school hasn't done that and then yeah it's really frustrating because like I mean I think that's like an easy like option and like noticeable but I guess maybe to me it seems more noticeable than maybe a school that's trying to work on other ways. I don't know, so I think that was just interesting as a whole.
Yeah, and I think that like especially for students who are going to be transitioning like pretty soon, that if the parents and the teachers don't think that they have potential for them to like self advocate for themselves, like it's kind of scary to think that they could just like be like, oh, you're going to college or you're not going to college, you're just going to stay at home and live with me forever, when like they should have a say. You know, like I don't know, I just feel like they have so much potential and I all of our students do, and I just really I hope that's not as much the case like in real life where parents and teachers don't see that.
Right, I feel like you don't know but then um it's hard to set goals because you can only see what they're currently doing. So then they're like, okay, well, let's just like increase that. Whereas it might be a whole different goal that is transition related and like independent living. Like I feel like if you give them where they like stay at a place that's not their house for like a weekend and you have a support person, like see what they can do, or I don't know, like give them the opportunity rather than, oh, they're just gonna live at home with me the rest of their life. Like, ugh, I don't know. Okay. Any other thoughts? Nope. Okay. one last question. So in the class, you learned a lot about instructional planning for students with disabilities, including writing social stories, task analysis, and SIPs. Discuss how you'll use this knowledge in your future working with individuals with or without disabilities.
I feel like all kids could use like social stories and task analysis and things like that. Like, even if like I'm not going to be like, I'm not planning on just being a special ed teacher, but like if I want to teach like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, like all of them could use like step by step social stories for academic things and just like how to treat other people, like things like that.
Yeah, and like with the step-by-step parts or like the task analysis, if a student like isn't getting something, it can be any student. I feel like it's good to just even as a teacher, just step back and be like, okay, like how can I break this down in the most simplest form to see if they can get it that way? And just probably a thing of trial and error to see which ways they understand best. But yeah, just applying it to anybody is useful.
Right, I feel like the application can be used for all students because no students are perfect and all students have something, a weakness, a strength that they need to work on, that they need to use and apply. So I think social stories, like I don't know, I feel like that's the most common people know about or like use, kind of like a parent preparing their kid, like, okay, we're gonna go to the concert, we have to sit in our seat and it's gonna be dark and it's gonna be quiet, things like that. I mean, that's not a social story directly, but it's kind of the basic concept, and it's just like kind of more documented and like more formal means. And then like task analysis, I don't know why like teachers or parents like use it more often. And I think a lot of it is just that it's done through verbal means, like this is how you need to do something, but it's just like life, like directions of how to work something or build something or to turn something on. Like, it's just like steps, and it's just task analysis is a specific task and probably more detailed than directions might be like wordy and stuff. But like, I don't know, we use them in everyday life. And I think any student, when you have physical or like verbal instruction of how to do a task, it's gonna be a lot easier than trying to do it on your own and just like have parts and make something out of it. And then the SIPs, I think that serves as a basis, just shows how important like assessment is. So like having objective. So like obviously students with disabilities, they'll have IEP goals to work on. And from there you can kind of make objectives. But I mean, any student that they need to work on a specific goal or something or content objective, right? Then you make an SIP and see their understanding of those things. And I think that assessment is super important and can be used in any classroom.
Yeah, I think you could even do like an SIP, just like if you're working one on one with a student who maybe isn't getting like a certain like math or reading skill, or like with a small group of kids, like pulling them aside and doing just like a small intervention with them. I feel like you could definitely use an SIP for that too.
Right, and I think it like helps with like performance level too, because like, okay, you have report cards, but like all parents want to know how their students doing in general, disability or not. And so I think you could like have them be like, well, like I would work on them, or like, you give them a problem or worksheet and this is how they did, and this is what areas they're able to do, this is what areas they are not able to do. So mhm.
Yeah, I really think that all of these could benefit all students, but the main difference would be like we said before, like with students with disabilities, we would probably be doing like social stories, task analysis, SIPs with like everyday tasks, like how I wrote an SIP for brushing your teeth, for somebody with severe disabilities, with where like in a general ed classroom you wouldn't be using an SIP for brushing your teeth, but you could be doing like a math skill, like a advanced math skill even.
Yeah, we kind of had to do those with like an academic lesson. Well, we only had to do one, which was probably a simpler one, but yeah, definitely for sure using it for more advanced lessons as well.
I think also we can take away from this that all these instructional planning opportunities and items are super important for the classroom for all students, and specific and unique to their needs.
Awesome. I'm going to stop the recording.